Should I start again with some nice welcome for the people who are watching at home?
Well, we've actually had a couple of people jump on as well too. So if you want to reiterate
Excellent.
something, that's
Yeah,
fine.
no, I'll just say once again, I appreciate you guys being here so that we can discuss, obviously, some end of the year activities during this difficult time. So thank you again for being here. I'd like to just also welcome Robbie Feinberg, who's here with us. Robbie is a reporter with MPBN. He's done a number of stories on Oak Hill throughout the years, has always treated us well and with respect. And so we're happy to have him here. And don't be surprised if he reaches out to some of you guys after this meeting to maybe potentially talk to your senior student just on the impacts of this pandemic and the effects it's had on their senior year. So appreciate, Robbie, you being here wherever you might be in this tiled group. Just to bring everybody up to speed in regards to communication, we've been doing a fair amount, and I hope that a lot of this information has been getting to you. And if it hasn't, please let us know. We'll make sure that you get it. But we've been doing a fair amount. So we've been communicating through daily announcements that have been posted on all of our media platforms. A number of teachers, staff members have taken part in those just to make sure that we're keeping some semblance of normalcy during normalcy during this time. So we've been doing those daily announcements. Some of them are pretty hilarious. Others are a little bit more serious, but again, it's nice to have faces and some semblance of regular school activity happening on a daily basis. We've also hosted two parent forums, and those have been well attended, again, just to get feedback from parents on how things are going with the digital and distance learning. And we've also had two student forums that we've conducted, both with senior students and then with underclassmen. Again, same type of material, trying to get information from students, how they're feeling, how things are going, if we can offer any support. And they've been wonderful. They've given us a lot of information to digest and bring back to our staff to make changes if need be. So appreciate that. And then during that senior student forum that we had, we also put together a senior survey that was sent out to all seniors. And that senior survey has a number of questions on it in regards to end of the year activities. So what we wanted to do before having a senior parent forum was to just be able to get as much information as possible at this point in time, as it is ever changing, and try to come up with, giving you guys the information that we've received from students and other stakeholders as to what we might be doing. And I think, obviously the big ones right now are graduation and prom. And so what I'm going to do is just show you guys briefly the results of the survey that we sent out to our students, and then talk about some of the ideas that we have in honoring our students as we get closer to graduation. So Sam, should I share my screen, or is that something that you will share?
I can do that if you'd like.
Sure, that'd be great.
Okay, you're talking about our presentation, correct?
Yes, that's right.
Okay, great.
Yep. So as I said, this came from our survey that we sent to seniors. We had about, I would say, between 35 and 40 responses from a class that's close to 100. So not as spectacular as far as the feedback is concerned, but again, we put it out there as much as possible and promote it to make sure that students have access to it. And these are the results that we have at this point in time. So we'll go ahead and jump right into it. So what the survey asked was a couple of different options that we had at the time for graduation that we had come up with. And one of them was this first option, smaller version of graduation, again, if permissible, given the guidelines from the state. We would keep the Civic Center as our venue, keep the date of June 8th. We would have a minimum of guests allowed depending on the numbers of the number of people that we can have in a large space, potentially fewer staff members, and 6 feet between guests. So that was one of the options that we floated out there to seniors. And if we go to the next slide, it'll tell us the results of that. So the smaller version of graduation, only 4 out of the 35 senior respondents, favored that smaller version of graduation. So the second option was to postpone graduation. We would keep the venue, again, the Augusta Civic Center, potentially a date in July or August. Again, number of guests allowing dependent on state and CDC guidance, and social distancing of guests, once again, based on CDC guidance. And so the results of that, 29 out of 35 seniors responded positively to the postponing graduation. We have a third option, which was a drive-in graduation. This was something that I heard about, and I wouldn't be surprised if it was Lake region, because I do believe they have a drive-in theater in Bridgeton, but we would change the venue to a drive-in theater. We would keep the date, number of guests allowed depending on vehicle spacing, and we do some kind of ceremony broadcast on the big screen, which would be kind of interesting. So that was one of the options, and here are the results for that. 7 out of 35 senior respondents responded, positively to that. Our fourth option was a drive-through graduation. So we would change the venue to the Oak Hill High School Circle. We would keep the date of June 8th. Number of guests allowed depending on vehicle spacing, and ceremony broadcast on radio or live stream for those who couldn't be in attendance. And so the results of that were 3 out of 35 senior respondents. So what I'd like to do is maybe we can stop here at the graduation aspect of things. And I just would like to kind of lay out to you my thoughts as to what we would do for graduation, given, again, the information that we have at this point in time, because it's ever changing and evolving. So, given the feedback that we received from our students, what we're thinking about doing, and this is completely possible, it is a possibility as I've checked with the Augusta Civic Center, they would be happy to host us during the summer for a full graduation ceremony, given, again, the ability to gather in a large group, with state and CDC guidelines in place. So we wouldn't lose a deposit. That date would be to be determined, but they did have availability in the summer to host us. And our hope would be to have a full-on graduation ceremony, rose ceremony, music, the whole deal, just so that kids get their fair shake when it comes to the graduation experience. The other piece is that I would like to, because June 8th is technically their graduation date, is to do some kind of signifying event of that date. And that would be something along the lines of a drive-through at the high school where we could do a parade of sorts. Students could come through with their cars and participate that way. Again, doing something to signify the importance of that date. So that's my thoughts at this point in time. And I'm love to hear from you guys as to your thoughts in regards to graduation. And I'll do the best to answer any questions that you may have. If I don't have the answer at this point in time, I will research it and get back to you.
Marco, this is Russ Roderick. I applaud you for all of your efforts, first of all, to help make sure that the students are getting the recognition that they deserve, because I know a lot of them are struggling with the concept of missing prom and missing senior year, end of the year, sports, etc. I like the fact that you surveyed them. I think that's very smart, and I think the numbers speak. They'd like to do it largely in full, and I do like the idea of the full venue, the full graduation, just because it's a big deal.
Yeah.
I don't know if I necessarily have a question other than, what happens if the CDC doesn't say, yeah, you're green lighted to go? What do you do then? You've already missed any windows earlier, and then kids are off to college and gone.
Yeah, so I mean, it's a fair question, Russ, and I don't know really how to respond to that, except to say that if we had to come up with some kind of alternative, whether the guidelines were to be outdoors, maybe we think about using the high school, to do something there, or if it has to be pared down, And I know that people don't like that, but at least it would be, you know, some kind of ceremony that we could have. It would just be with a smaller number of people, and maybe we could still use the Civic Center. I mean, it's really hard to say. I mean, I totally understand where you're coming from. It's just extremely difficult to predict it. And if it doesn't happen, I think that we still need to do something, because, you know, they need to get their diplomas.
Yeah,
you know?
I agree. Yeah, I like that as maybe an alternative to contingency plan. The delayed graduation with a delayed outdoor using our own facility.
Yeah, a double delayed graduation.
Double
yes.
delay, yep. Thank you.
Yeah, of course.
Marco, Rachel has her hand up.
All
So
right.
I'll lower her hand and unmute her. And then we have a question from Penny in the chat. So we'll keep that speaking order and then go from there. Go ahead, Rachel.
Yeah. Okay, hi. So that was actually the point I was going to make, was there opportunity for another option, which I've read a lot about what they're doing down in the southern states, is where they're doing a smaller version, where they're assigning the students to come in and cap and gown, walk across the stage, get their diploma. It's all being videoed, and then they're pulling all of the videos together to make it one big video. And they're obviously giving that to the students so they have something, not necessarily remembering everyone together, but they have something that sort of substitutes having everybody together. I raise that only because, and I've only briefly reviewed what Governor Mills gave as her outline for the next 4 months, and I think it would be August before we get everyone together, I think, at the Augusta Civic Center. So I just didn't know if that was an option, like I said, like a smaller version, and assigning dates and time to everyone. So just wanted to put that out there.
Yeah, I appreciate that feedback, Rachel. And we do work with a media production company, Munzing Media, who I think many of you guys are familiar with. They just actually showed the 2013 championship, state football championship. I believe it was last night. So that was nice, but we work with him for the live stream. So that's definitely an option that we can talk to him about. Okay. So I appreciate that. Thank you.
You're welcome.
And so Penny, I'm sorry, it looks like you asked if the graduation could be held outside on the field. And again, if we can't use a civic center, we can definitely look into that.
Then Jean had a question. So Jean, I'll lower your hand and unmute you.
Okay. I just wanted to say, yesterday when the governor was talking, she said that by June 1st, she would make an announcement about large venue meetings. So by June 1st, we should know that. And she's on TV right now talking about her plan to open up Maine, which like the other lady said, it looks like it's going to be a while before things are really going to open up. So doesn't look like it's going to be anytime soon.
Yeah, did she say anything, you said June 1st in regards to large gatherings?
Yeah, large venue. She said yesterday that she would make an announcement by June 1st as far as large venue gatherings.
And that's her stage 2, and she's talking up to 50. She's only talking up to 50 people though.
Right. And that's, that would be,
That's for the month of June, up to 50 people. So that doesn't give us what we need for a graduation, obviously.
Right. Yeah, it's going to be very slow to open. So I do think, like the other lady said, it'll be August before we're able to do anything.
Yeah. Yep. No, I appreciate the information, Jean. Thank you for that.
Yeah.
Yeah, 50 people is not going to cut it.
Nope. Not even get the graduates in there.
No, no, you wouldn't. That's for sure.
And Bill had a question in the chat. Are they going to get caps and gowns either way?
Yes, absolutely. Yep, we actually have them in the office right now. Hi, Autumn. How about other questions in regards to graduation? Any suggestions or concerns, or anything else? I mean, like I said, we're trying to put these plans into place with an ever-changing world around us. So we're doing the best that we can with that. So if there's anything else in regards to graduation, I'm happy to hear it.
Ms. Aliberti?
Yes, Lana.
Hi, thanks for doing this, by the way. I was wondering if we go by what the kids want, which most of them, according to your survey, wanted to postpone it, and according to Governor Mills, it's not going to happen anytime soon. If we're going to be realistic and shoot for August, is that something we can set up a date for? Like, could it be one of the plans?
Yeah, Lana, absolutely, it can be one of the plans. So, I mean, if we feel that it's going to be August, and I say like, you know, the beginning of August, because what's tough is we start to get towards the end of August, and you know, kids are reporting for you know, colleges or sports or other things that they might need to be involved in. So, you know, I would think early August at the latest. So yes, I mean, we can definitely look at a date in early August. It's an easy phone call to the gentleman at the Civic Center. I mean, he's been great, you know, to work with and talk about a couple of different scenarios, especially with even social distancing. You know, he talked a lot about how, you know, Oak Hill High School could very much, you know, again, given the current guidelines, could very much, you know, fit into the Civic Center and have social distancing in order. So he was confident that that could happen. It's just if we're allowed to do it or not is really what it comes down to. But we can get a date. That's not a problem.
Thank you.
Of course.
And Mr. Aliberti, there is a question in the chat about submitting ideas if there is a unique option for graduation that someone learns of.
Sure. Yeah, no. So Russ, that's not a problem either. I mean, if it looks like it's not going to happen, then we can definitely put the ideas back out there. That's not a problem whatsoever. And the method for that would be, you know, like what we've been doing. So whether it's another group chat like this to get information from you guys and from senior students to surveys, we'll do that to do the best that we can to meet everybody's needs.
And I would add to that too, feel free to email us if you come up with something unique and it's, you know, timeline is you want to get it to us right away. And Bill, you have your hand up. I'll go ahead and lower your hand and unmute you.
Emily wanted me to ask about cords and ropes.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so Mel, you're going to have to help me out. I can't recall off the top of my head. When is it that we give out cords and stoles?
Cords have traditionally been given out at marching practice.
Mm-hmm.
So I would have to work with Lorraine. We haven't verified that yet. So I imagine whenever students picked up their gowns and regalia, that would just be included in the packet if students were eligible for them, but that we haven't fine-tuned it, but that's how we normally give them out that day in marching practice.
Yeah, that makes sense, Mel. Yep. Thank you. Thanks, Bill, for the question. I appreciate it.
There's a question in the chat from an iPhone user. Are we able to plan 2 event venues with that set date? Meaning we plan the original Civic Center venue, but if circumstances arise unable to hold it there, we use a high school field or another backup plan.
Yeah. Yeah, so I would answer yes to that because I think we're going to, you know, as I was saying earlier, we're going to need a backup for the backup just because, again, we don't know what situation will arise between now and then. And so, you know, I think having as many options as possible. I mean, it's pretty simple. And again, I haven't talked to the facilities director in regards to this, but so take this with a grain of salt to a certain extent here. But you know, if we book a date for the Civic Center, that's not an issue whatsoever. And then we plan on or book the same date for, you know, if it's the high school, that's not going to be a problem. It's not like we're going to be fighting, you know, other people for that space to hold the graduation at. It's just a conversation I'd have to have with the facilities director about how that would work. The other piece, just so that you guys know, is this obviously is a major part of our information gathering. And so on Friday, we have an administrative team meeting where we'll be discussing end of the year activities, not just for the high school, but for the entirety of the district. And we'll be, hopefully coming up with some determinations from that. I mean, obviously, as we get closer and closer to it, we're going to have to make some hard choices here, regarding everything that's going on.
And Sean,
Yep.
yeah, go ahead.
No, I was going to say, so Sean asked about parents and graduates at one venue, and then offsite viewing for family and such. And I mean, what's nice about that, Sean, is that we already use, again, Munzing Media for live streaming. So that could be pretty simple. So I really appreciate that idea, because we may be able to get the numbers correct to be inside of a building and do the ceremony. I know it's not the same as having everybody in your family there, but that's a viable option. I appreciate the suggestion. Thank you.
That's similar, like some of the universities do that traditionally host outside graduations. If it rains, that's what they do. They have the offsite viewing.
Yeah. Yeah, Mel, there's a question about scholarships. And yes, Russ, we will continue with the awarding of scholarships. And so that might look a little bit different depending on what venue and how we're doing that. Some of them we do during graduation, and then others, Mel, we do during senior recognition night. Is that correct? Okay, great. So those are still happening, though. Definitely, yeah. We won't be holding on to the checks. Yeah, go ahead, Mel.
Hey, and parents, remind your seniors that applications for local scholarships are due by Thursday.
Yeah, there's money there.
Yep. So just a little.
Mel, how do they contact? Do they contact you or Mrs. Jem?
They contact Mrs. Jem. On the Oak Hill website, under the guidance page, are PDFs of all of the applications. And I've let students know they can use a program called Cami, so they can write over the application online if they don't have a printer. And then they need to send that back to Miss Jem. If they do have a printer and they're able to print it out, they can print it out, fill it out, and then take a picture with their phone or scan it with their phone and get them back to Miss Jem. So some seniors have asked me individual questions, and I know she's getting stuff because she's been working on it this week. So if any of your students have questions, please urge them to send an email to Kathy Jem or to myself or to Erin Cloutier.
Mm-hmm. So Libby has a question in regards to end of the year school dates. So right now, and I say this as of 3:57 p.m. on the 28th, the reality is that the end of school for seniors, the last day that we would normally have, if we were normally in session, would be May 29th. That's a Friday. Usually they have the week prior to graduation off, because graduation is scheduled for June 8th. So that would be the last day for seniors, would be the 29th. I have to, by policy, let parents and students know if they are not graduating by the Wednesday prior to graduation. So that would be that following week, the first week of June there. So that's all I know right now in regards to the end of the school year. As far as stopping any distance learning early or anything like that, that's something that's not finalized at this point in time. I hope that answers your question, Libby. And then somebody asked, somebody asked what the rose ceremony, and Lana answered it. So rose ceremony is a really nice ceremony. Students can purchase roses. And then during graduation, the roses are meant for people that have influenced their lives. And so we take kind of a break in the middle of graduation for about 10 minutes or so, and students go around and hand out those roses. It's been going on for quite some time, and it's a nice touch. It's not something that I was familiar with prior to being at Oak Hill, but it's really nice. So thanks, Lana, for your help with that. Appreciate it. How about other questions in regards to graduation?
So what's the decision after all?
There isn't going to be one, Lana, in this forum.
Well, I was just thinking, like, do we need to figure out what like, we know what the kids want. The kids
Yep.
want to postpone this stuff. So should we just go with that and plan for that? Like you were saying, with like 2 different venues for the same date, was also added it like offsite major group, you know, so can we just like follow something like that and get rid of the plans where you drive through graduation and any of that? What do you think?
Sure. So I'm not going to make that decision right this second and tell everybody this is what we're going to do, because I have to have a larger conversation with the superintendent and the other administrators. So that'll, like I said, that'll be happening on Friday. And as I said, my hope is that we can be, have a decision as to what we're going to be doing for graduation. That way, at least it puts everybody's mind at ease as to this is what the plan is, and we can promote that moving forward. But I can't do it right now.
If I can add, I think Mr. Aliberti and I both feel strongly that just for our students' mental health and for their morale, it's important to us that we do something sooner rather than later to recognize our senior students, just with so many unknowns and not knowing when we could do, a postponed graduation. Give them something to look forward to that doesn't replace a traditional ceremony, but it supplements it. So that way, there's some type of local recognition that's coming from our school community sooner rather than later.
Yeah, that's the other piece. I'm sorry, Sam, go ahead.
No problem. I was just going to point back to, there's a couple questions in the chat, and then Michael has his hand up as well. So I'll let you handle the speaking order, Mr. Aliberti, and I'll take note.
Yes, sure. Any ideas about Project Grad? So Project Grad is completely separate from the high school. So I'm not 100% sure. I'm not sure if there's anybody on here. Angela, I'm not sure if you can speak to Project Grad, or, and my apologies, I have not heard anything in regards to what Project.
The one that probably could give information about Project Grad.
Okay.
I think Penny's on here. So if Penny wants to speak to Project Grad. Penny.
Or if she doesn't want to speak to Project Grad.
She did put something in the chat. So she commented in the chat that she can't say due to the fact that we don't know the date of graduation date. Right. So like it kind of depends on what happens with graduation, what could happen with Project Grad, since they're kind of tied together. But we could maybe connect with Penny and have a smaller conversation and see if we could detach the two and see if there are any, possibilities.
Yeah, so it's funny too. She's having tech issues, she said in the chat. So no worries, Penny, that's fine. There was a question about pics for the yearbook. And so if we're talking about senior photos, those probably should have been in before this. Now, I will say that and I can't tell you when that date was, but if you need to turn in a photo, I would email Mr. Young, jeremy.young@rsu4.org. He can help you with that. He's the one who is the organizer for the yearbook. And so Sean's putting out there scholarships, for Project Grad, things of that. Yeah, and obviously, Sean, that's something that Penny, we can talk with Penny about if she'd like to do that. If for some reason that doesn't happen. Yeah.
And there was a question a little bit farther back in the chat.
Sorry if I missed it.
No, it's fine. One of the forums, there had been mention of having the graduation and senior prom as one event to help with scheduling later. And the question was the idea still being considered? So, I mean, just looking at the data that we got from the seniors, that was not a favored option. Not a lot of responses in favor of marrying the two together. So I can double check and look at the numbers, but we didn't even include it because it wasn't in the top 2 or top 4 for those events.
Yep, that's true. And as far as prom is concerned, I mean, right now, the feedback from the students is like to have it postponed, and so we're working on logistics for that. I mean, a summertime prom would be interesting, and I say that only in the sense it's summertime. I guess that's the only thing I'll say about it. But it's it could be a nice time to have the prom. So we're working on figuring out a date with the venue that we have. It's about $4,000 or so to put the prom on. And so we'd like to be able to still use that money for some kind of celebration. The other option really that the students favored was either have the prom at a later date or cancel it all together and try to get the money back. And so, we're still working with the venue on options at this point in time. But again, it was preferred that it be moved to the summer. And that's true, Sean. If you've ever chaperoned a dance, social distancing at dances, yeah, it's tough. We give everybody a square to stand in, 6 feet. That's it. Yeah, exactly.
Michael's had his hand up for quite a while, so I'm going to lower your hand and unmute you, Michael.
Okay, thank you. You mentioned senior recognition night, and that one kind of was off my radar completely. Do we have anything loosely planned for that?
Yeah, so I'm thinking about a stream situation for that, and a lot of awards are given out during that night. So both the day assembly and the night assembly, and so we're going to have to come up with a way to obviously recognize students and get them those awards. I mean, so yes, it's on our radar. As far as a definite plan at this point in time, no. I mean, the biggies that we've been talking about are prom and graduation. You're welcome. Thanks. How about other thoughts, ladies and gentlemen? Like I said, I do appreciate the feedback.
Marco, I might have missed it when I first came in, but
sure.
Did you talk about what other principals have out on the table for graduation? Anything that you thought was a really good idea or not?
Yeah, no, that's a wonderful, wonderful question, Libby. So there's a couple of groups that I belong to professionally, and the discussions really have been around the same type of options. One that was really interesting to me was the use of a media platform of some sort and doing it digitally. And so, essentially it would be like the students would come in one at a time and some sort of, awarding of the diploma, and then they would leave and the next person would come in, and all of that would be streamed. Plus they would put some other production pieces together. That was probably the most interesting one. So they're actually working with a couple of different camera crews and, services to put it all together. So that's probably the most interesting one. But as far as like different options, the ones that we're talking about are the ones that a lot of high schools are talking about, with the exception of, as Sam said, putting both the prom and the graduation together. So that was another unique one. So that's what I'm hearing through my conversations that I'm having with other principals. I have another meeting Thursday of this week with Androscoggin County principals. So I'll be curious to see what else has come from them.
Bill has his hand up. So Bill, I'll lower your hand and unmute you. Go ahead, sir.
Sure.
Yes, it's about project graduation and the money that was raised for that. Emily thinks that it would be a good idea to put that money, save that money for their first class reunion.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I don't know what everyone else thinks about that.
Mm-hmm.
I think most people want to give it out to the kids right now as a scholarship for every single child versus just the ones who go to college. That was another proposition.
Mm-hmm.
I'm just thinking because they're really not getting a good graduation this year. We all can agree on that. This would be their first class reunion, would be their first opportunity to actually get together, hopefully, and
Mm-hmm.
really get that feeling of graduating instead of waiting till their 5-year or 10-year anniversary to have a big one.
Yeah. Yeah,
I'll
I
read
appreciate
what Penny added to the chat because I'm not sure if she's able to chime in vocally in the chat, but she said she couldn't limit the money to just college. There would need to be a separate conversation. Her intent is to set up a parent project grad meeting sometime in May after there's more details about graduation. But she did state that they don't get the inflatable money back. So that's not a refund that they would anticipate.
No, I appreciate that, Penny. And obviously, as soon as we make a decision, we'll let everybody know, so that we can get rolling with the project graduation piece. All right. So, other thoughts, and I say that in the sense of hands raised, or anything in the chat. Okay, I will say that I appreciate your support more than anything else. It's been an honor. I mean, this class is, and I don't know if many of you guys know this or not, but this was the first class that I really ever interacted with. So when I started in RSU4, I was the middle school principal, and your kids were in 8th grade, and then I moved on with them to the high school. And so it's been an extreme pleasure of mine to be working with all of your kids for the last 5 years, and even through this difficult situation. So I really appreciate the support and understanding through a difficult time. I would reiterate, if there's other questions or concerns that you did not ask about, please feel free to let us know. You can contact us via email. That's not a problem whatsoever. And we'll continue to update you as soon as we have decisions that are being made, and any other information that would be pertinent to this conversation. There was one more question about senior trip and those funds. Oh, Mrs. Roy, do you want to talk about senior trip? Where are they going this year?
I'm not really sure we're going anywhere, Marco. They do have some money in their fund at school. We were looking at a couple different options for senior trip. I am kind of assuming those are probably off the table right now. I don't know how the kids will want to use the money they had. I know that we still have about 50% of the class that has not paid dues. So I don't know if we should go ahead and still try to collect the dues from those kids, or if we should consider returning dues to the kids who have paid dues. So I don't know. I guess that's another conversation to be had, probably with senior finance committee.
Yeah, that would be great.
And then maybe you can be involved in that conversation too, Marco.
Sure. Sure,
But
that
I
would be
think
wonderful.
we have about $6,000 right now in our account, with like another $2,000 probably outstanding in dues money. So there's about $8,500 that we're talking probably.
That's great. I know I had a senior student after our forum email me and say that they thought that should go to some scholarships for the kiddos. But, obviously, I think getting the finance team together and having that conversation would be a great place to start. I'm happy to take part in that, Angela. Just let me know.
Great. Yeah.
Yeah, that's great. Any thoughts, any last thoughts, guys? And I'm happy to, answer any further questions about graduation or prom, either of those. Okay. Oh, I don't know. There's an iPhone that's just lit up. Sorry. Again, just appreciate your time and efforts, and I appreciate you guys joining us today. As soon as we have decisions and further information, we'll make sure that you get it. I don't know, and I'll ask Robbie Feinberg, who I mentioned to you guys at the beginning of this meeting. Robbie, if you want to stay on, and if there are parents that might want to, I don't know, Robbie, if you want to talk to people about this situation, or if they want to have their student talk with you, how you might want to go about doing that. So I'll just put that out there, Robbie, for you to answer.
We do have one hand raised, Marco.
Oh, I'm sorry. Go right ahead.
It's that iPhone, so I'll lower your hand and unmute you, and
Sure.
you can ask your question.
This is a little off topic, but I was wondering if there will be any type of ceremony with the seniors right now giving the juniors their NHS stuff like we had last year inducted.
So like an NHS ceremony?
Yes, I was wondering if the seniors would still be able to pass that on to the ones for this year.
Well, what we're thinking about doing is potentially postponing the NHS ceremony because almost all of the NHS inductees this year are juniors, and postponing that to the fall.
Okay.
I'm sorry, Sean, is the parent survey for prom? I just saw that there was a parent survey would be a good idea. That's all.
She added to the comment and said, or to the chat and said, for all we discussed today. So I'm guessing that's very similar to a variation of what we had sent out to the seniors. So
Gotcha.
maybe just including the same options that came out of that initial senior student forum, putting it out to parents and guardians to see if they feel similarly. And they would still have the opportunity for you to put other in that response. And so if you had a unique idea, that would be another opportunity for you to put that. And Jason, we generally do the surveys with Google Forms, since we all have, we have the Google Suite for Education, and those are quick and easy for us to do. I mean, if you know something that we don't as far as limits on responses, we haven't encountered any concerns, but if you have a tech thing to share, let us know.
Robbie also mentioned in the chat that if anybody's interested, you know, about their experience and chatting with him about it, he's provided his email address in the chat, and we can, well, we'll make sure this is posted anyway. So if you need to come back to it, feel free. We can get that out to you, or if you want to email me directly, I can get you his information. Great guy, and he's a good reporter. So, you know, feel free to talk to him about it. Oh, NTHS. That's Mel. That's the tech center, correct? NTHS, or was it NH?